Hey listeners, my name is Alyse and welcome back to the Dreadful Dialogue podcast. I have a new guest with me to chat today. Her name is Bonnie Marie Williams and she's known as the Voiceover Superhero. So hey Bonnie, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, we've been trying to get this together for a few months now, but everybody's got different schedules, so it's great to have you here. I met Bonnie through a friend of the podcast. If anybody's listened to episode 2, where I interviewed Big Sexy about his time acting in the production of Evil Dead the Musical, and she's a mutual friend of his, and I listened to her episode when she was on his podcast, and I really fell in love with your personality, and I was super fascinated by what you do, and I want you to share that with the listeners because I am not, a Hollywood industry professional. I just have my little baby podcast, in the words of one of my good friends, Kristen. We call it our little baby podcasts. But what is the difference between like voiceover or voice acting? Are those the same? Is there a difference?
So I think the best way to put it is all voice actors do voiceover, but not all voiceover talent call themselves voice actors.
Okay.
And voiceover, you could think of that as like voiceover is a service, but voice actor is a person who provides the service.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be a good way of like kind of distinguishing it, but it's all under the same umbrella terms. Like a voice actor is just an actor who uses the microphone to do it versus being on camera, being on stage. It's just a different medium.
Got you. And like I because when I heard that too, I thought maybe it had to do with like you being able to change your voice and use different personalities. I would think that falls more into the realm of acting, or am I wrong in thinking that?
No, so that's part of it. But there are people who do, e-learning stuff and corporate narration stuff, and they'll still tell you that you're still acting because you can't, at the end of the day with voiceover and voice acting, it's not just reading. You're really bringing the words to life. So even if you don't necessarily change your voice, like most of the commercials that I do sound like this, I work all across different genres, but most of the stuff I do sounds like my voice. It doesn't sound like, oh, I am over here and I'm doing this, like it's not like a totally different thing. It's just, this is who they hire me because I sound like this, but I can take a piece of copy and a piece of text and turn it into something where it sounds like I might be another 20-year-old, I wish, who is explaining the benefits of this product to somebody else. And you're still acting. It's just a different facet of you. And that's kind of how I've always approached characters, is you're not necessarily pretending to be somebody else. I've never thought of it that way. I've thought of acting as, where do you relate to this person? Where is this part of you that is also this other person? And where can you bridge the gap?
Oh, that's great. I really love that you explained that because, I'm sure there's so many misconceptions and, that was totally my ignorance speaking, but I was like, hey, I got to know. I don't, it's a great part of that's what I love about this podcast is I love being a storyteller and hearing people's stories and hearing what they're out there doing. And like you said, you do work in multiple genres, but I was looking through your IMDb, looking through your resume, and I see you've acted in quite a many things. But something that really stuck out to me was that you not only did voice work, but you were also one of the producers, I think a supervising producer of Spooktacular, right? And that was a documentary from 2023. And I stole this right off of Google, so I'm going to read the little snippet that I got here from IMDb. And it says, the story Spooky World and its founder, a PR-savvy mix of P.T. Barnum and Stephen King, who parlayed his experience working in his father's joke shop into creating the very first horror screen park of its kind in 1991. Wow. So can you share anything about your time with that production?
Oh, yeah. So LA is a very interesting world and the entertainment industry is very interesting. So I first met David, who basically the movie is about my friend, one of my dear friends, David Bertolino, and his theme park, Spooky World, out in Berlin, Massachusetts. And I originally met David when I was in a theater production that he wrote and was the executive producer of in West Hollywood. And this was 12 years ago now. It feels like a lifetime ago. But that was when I met him, and I didn't know he was a playwright. I didn't know he had a horror theme park past. I just knew him from a theater perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a very minor part in that show. And I just, started trying to make myself valuable. And I was there, even on nights I wasn't necessarily supposed to be there, I would still show up at the theater. And we became really good friends. And I ended up like renting a room from him. And we were moving from one place to another. And he said, hey, I just got off the phone with Linda. And I'm like, what do you mean, Linda? And he said, oh, Linda Blair. And I'm like, David, what are you talking about? And then he tells me he has this whole other life, and he had a theme park, and it was a horror theme park in Massachusetts. And I'm going, who is this person that I thought I knew, that I live with? Like, what's happening here? And it just blew my mind at that, he knew all these people. So fast forward to 2021, and I had started doing some production, organization and management stuff. And I wasn't living in LA at the time. I had moved away and I was living on the East Coast, but I had this opportunity to come work on the movie. And I said, absolutely. I want to be a part of this. This is amazing. And so I flew out, and I was flying back and forth for about a year doing that. I was bi-coastal for a year. It's exhausting. And it ended up the workload became a little bit more, and I was helping out with more things and talking to the director. It's he said, your work is starting to become more of producer territory. It's I've never been a producer before. So it was baby's first producer credit, and it was really, really fun. The movie is still set to come out. It's just sometimes distribution and things, on the back end can kind of take a while. But we have some cool things coming out with the movie. So really looking forward to seeing that and seeing people get excited about that. Every time there's been a screening of it, to build the anticipation, everybody's really enjoyed it. So it's really exciting. And I got to do some VO for it too. So that was really cool. Got to do some ADR, some VO for it, along with being a producer of it. So that was my first producer credit, and I'll always be grateful. And this is why, I tell people, don't think of people in the industry as what they can do for you, because I feel that's very traditionally thinking networking. People think oh, what can this person do for me? And it's no. Get to know people and actually enjoy who they are. And if you have stuff in common, don't think of them as just a dollar sign. You don't want to be seen like that. So if you can really look at other people in the industry as this person is really cool and really unique and really talented, and you start building those relationships, you never know what's going to come of it. Me 12 years ago had no idea that somebody I met doing theater would end up having such a huge part of my life and my life as an actor, and my first producer credit, and so many people that I've met through this production who happen to be really good friends of mine. It's just wild to see that ripple effect of where you can start with something and you never know what's going to come from that. But if I had just said, oh, this guy has this and I need to dig my claws in because this is what I could get out of it. No, there's absolutely no way. It was a pleasant surprise. And that's what happens when you take the time to truly get to know people and be genuine and authentic.
Yeah, no, I and like I said, I think that's what I really loved about your interview that you did with Big Sexy. I could very much tell you're a very genuine person. And the same, when I see your social media posts, I know, I'm going to go off on a tangent. I know this is a horror podcast, but there are horrors and scary things that go on in the real world. And there's things that you post related to, dealing with mental health. And so you do go outside of your realm. You run in multiple communities. Yeah, me and you touched bases through being being spooky fans. But it's true what you say. You never know who you're sitting next to. You never know who you're going to meet. It never hurts to take the time to get to know somebody. And I think it's just really cool to hear also about how that turned into you being a part of this production, taking a bigger seat by being a producer, not just doing your voiceover work. So that's really cool. So you said that it's caught up right now, kind of waiting for some funding and stuff. So keep me in the loop on that. Anything when there's screenings or anything, I'll make sure we promote that, because I was trying to dig deep in the internet, and I'm like, well, why can't I find this? So now that totally makes sense. Yeah. So it's going to come out at some point. So we can keep our listeners to find that as well, because
100%.
We don't have anything like that. I know in Vegas right now Universal's trying to build a 100% horror themed park, but I mean we don't have anything like that here, right? We might have a little section of a park, and of course we get spooky season where we get our, the different, Queen Mary events and knots and all the other ones, and conventions and whatnot. But that's really cool. That
it's so cool. And I had never even heard of anything like that. But I mean, and this isn't to blow smoke up his butt, but like, you really revolutionized the haunted hayride, and what that is now and what we have now is really because of, he saw that as, this is entertainment for people. Let's ramp up the production value. And you have a whole theme park dedicated to horror, and it's open during October, but it's a whole park. It's not a section of the park. And that's not to downplay Knott's Scary Farm and the Queen Mary, which is haunted in and of itself. Or Halloween Horror Nights, which I love. Yeah. So it's not to discount that, but all these things, take inspiration from each other. And so many people who are in the horror industry now got a lot of their starts at Spooky World. Wow. And friends that I've met through working on the movie got to visit that when they were a kid. And I'm like, man, if I didn't grow up out here, if I grew up out there, you better believe I would have been there every fall with my dad. My mom and my sister would have stayed home. They're not Halloween people. But me and my dad, 100%. Like we would have gone 100%. I'm so sad I never got to actually experience it.
Yeah, there's definitely things like that where you're like, oh, if I could have been there at that time. But yeah, that's definitely a documentary that I am looking forward to coming out.
Oh, yeah. When it comes out, I will be obnoxious. I will never shut up about it.
Well, I'm glad I gave you a space to chat about it more, because there's not a lot out there about it. So I found that really fascinating to see that you'd worked on it. So another fun thing that I want to know about is I saw your post that you were a part of the Ice Nine Kills music video that featured David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown from the Terrifier films. So I want to know all the details. How did you get involved? What did you do? Like, how much blood was on you? Like, I need all of it. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So thankfully I was blood free. It was a 2-day shoot. I could only go the one day because I had to book out for it. But so one of my friends that I met, who's one of the other producers of Spooktacular, is my friend Anthony Landry. I love him to death. My brother from another mother. Nice. Just great, great friend. He has become friends with Spencer Charnas, who's the lead singer of Ice Nine Kills. And Spencer allowed us to use one of their songs for our podcast, which is amazing. He was like, yeah, go for it. So when you have somebody that likes what you do and gives you permission to use one of their hit songs as your theme song, you thank them in every podcast episode, which we do. But they became friends, and Spencer and Nadia are some of the nicest people, and something that I think people think if you're in horror, you're like really scary. That you're like, ooh, you're scary because you like all this stuff. No. Everybody in horror is like a nerd. And everybody's so nice because all of us know what it's like to be on the outskirts, to be on the fringe of things, to be on the outside, to not really fit in. And I felt like that within the area of like comic books in the geeky world, but I've also felt like that in the horror community. But all that to say is the horror community has some of the nicest people in it who are so welcoming, because we're all kind of like, we're all little misfits, you know? And so Spencer and Nadia invited us to be a part of the film shoot. And I remember getting an email about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool, but I don't know if I can go. And then I got a text from Anthony, and he's like, hey, what are you doing on this day? And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to go be a part of this music video. I guess that's what I'm doing. And we got to hang out and see the song that they did for Terrifier 3 before the movie even came out. This was last summer. We were in a heat wave here in LA, which was really fun. My makeup was like sweating off of me before I even got to the set, but it was super fun. And like we all just, the three of us, it was me, my friend Anthony, and my other friend Samantha, who is the other co-host of our podcast. We were all just hanging out backstage, and we're talking about something. And Samantha said the word moist, and from his dressing room door, David Howard Thornton pops out in the full Art the Clown makeup, everything. He goes, moist? And it was like, When I tell you I have never seen something so odd in my life, it was one of the funniest moments I've ever seen. And we were like backstage talking with him about the bread at the Smokehouse restaurant in Burbank. And he's like, that bread is so good. And I'm like, I'm talking about food with Art the Clown. Like,
right?
What is my life right now?
In the full makeup, right? You said the whole
regalia. In the full makeup. And like, it was just one of the weirdest, but one of the coolest experiences ever. And he is so... Like, everybody on that set was so nice. We made new friends that day. Like, David is incredible, and he's so kind, and he's so smart. And, like, he took pictures with all of us while we were in the VIP area in Crafty. And we were sitting behind him while he was eating, and he took out his teeth so he could eat. But he's, like, eating a burrito in his Art the Clown costume without the teeth, and it was the funniest thing. And so we're all like nervous, like, do we ask him like for a picture? But like, we're here working, so it's okay, right? And he was so cool about it. Like, he was so gracious and so nice. And then we were all hanging out backstage and just talking. And the next day, Anthony and Samantha got to stay for the second part of it, and that's where they were covered in blood. Like, Anthony has one of the kills in that part in the video. He's one of the guys that's like stabbing people, and it's incredible. So when I saw it, I was like, Anthony, that's you.
Now Anthony's one of your co-hosts in your podcast,
yes,
correct?
Okay, yes, Anthony, it's me, Anthony, and Samantha. Yeah. Okay.
And we'll make sure we talk. We'll get the name of your podcast too. I want to make sure we share all that. Yeah,
100%. But it was such a cool experience, and obviously, can't talk about it, can't release, because they hadn't even announced that they were doing a song for Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
So there was nothing supposed to be leaking from the set. It wasn't until their Silver Scream convention that they did the announcement that, actually, we have a song that's going to be in Terrifier 3. So it was really cool to like be a part of something as cool and as unique as that. And, it's just fun. And I got to introduce my sister to the Terrifier movies. Now, she and I, she loves, okay, this is where I throw her under the bus, okay? She loves Christmas, but she loves horror movies, but differently than I do. Like, she loves the really, like, bloody, like, her favorites are the Saw movies.
Oh, okay.
I can do up like so many of those, but there's the scene from Saw 2 where she falls with the needle pit. Like, I close my eyes and I still see that scene. Like, they are not my favorites. I admire them for what they've done. I love the first two, but I can't like watch all of them like my sister does. Yeah. She has all of them.
She was
on
like
DVD.
Hostel and all that one too, right? Yeah.
I saw Hostel with my high school best friend. It was rated R, so that was the year that came out. We were seniors in high school. And we were so freaked out by it because we were, 17-year-old girls that we popped across the way in the movie theater into, what was running? It was The Chronicles of Narnia, the first movie. So we popped into there and we're like, okay. We'll sneak into here and we'll just calm down a little bit. And then they started killing the lion and we're like, oh my God, why did we do this? That was on us for sneaking in there. But I got to introduce my sister to the Terrifier movies, and she loved them so much, and I knew she would. I was like, this is right up your alley. And, like, it was in the first one where they were, obviously, like, hurting him. And not to give it spoilers away, but, he was getting mucked up.
Yeah.
And my sister sitting next to me goes, stop, he's already bleeding. And I was like, why are you rooting for him? He's the bad guy. But she loved it. And so when I got to like show her the picture from being on set, she's like, that's so cool, Bond. That's so cool. And she went to go see 2 and 3 at the movies by herself. And I was like, you're hardcore, dude.
Yeah, that is.
Like, by herself, sat through like 9 hours of Terrifier content or whatever, and it was cool. It was cool. I wish I was as cool as my sister, but that's the very long story short. You can tell I talk for a living, huh?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I love it. I think I saw one of your posts where you made a joke about your teachers moving you. It said that teachers always moved you because you talk too much, and you're like, joke's on them because now I get paid to talk. And
yep.
That was so relatable. My mom told me when I was younger, she used to get these on my like report cards, like, Alyse talks too much, and everywhere we move her, she just makes new friends. And the same thing, I laugh. I mean, I Again, mine is a little baby podcast. I don't make necessarily money. This is more of an expensive hobby. But I did do a little bit of broadcast work when I was in the Army. And I got my degree in anthropology, and I talk to students all day. So I like to think I get paid to talk to. So you're in good company hanging out with me. I could listen to your stuff all the time. So we jumped right into like all of the stuff related to your horror genre work, but I want to delve more into what you go by and your whole brand and like your whole persona that you have, and you go by the voiceover superhero. And how did you come up with that?
So it sounds weird. I was Googling it and I was reading a book. Let me rewind. I grew up along with horror stuff. I grew up with comic book stuff. I know you can't really see it, but this is no, it's way too dark now. You can't see it.
I know the lighting's all weird because like it's raining and it's light and dark.
Yeah. But I have a Batman curtain in here because he's always been, oh yeah, you can kind of see right there at the bottom. It's a Batman shower curtain, but it's in my booth. And I have a Batman floor mat. I have a Wonder Woman figurine right here that I've had since I was little. Her paint is very much off because she was in the bath with me a lot when I was little. But I've had this since. She really is. She dated RoboCop for a brief period, but it didn't work out.
Oh.
Didn't work out with the two of them. I think she dumped him, if I remember correctly. But yeah, she's this is like Linda Carter, like old Wonder Woman. She's gone with me everywhere I've lived. But I grew up, so I would say two of the things that were gifts from my dad were comic books and horror movies. And I know people think those aren't, those have no relation to each other, but like,
I think they do. Yeah,
they do. It's just people are geeky about horror movies. They're geeky about comic books and stuff like that. So, I was out here in LA and I was doing on camera. I had started doing some VO, but I was still using my name as my brand. And then I moved to the East Coast and I kind of had to start all the way from the beginning because it was like, okay, well, I'm here where I don't really know anybody, and now opportunities don't seem as available as they were in Los Angeles. So now I really need to learn the business side of things. And that's when I was taking more voiceover classes, and I went like, what's my brand? Like, who am I? And I was reading a book on branding for voice actors. And it just kind of, it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. I don't know how to describe it other than that. And I went, oh my God, that's me. And it just made sense. And I think it made sense to me because my favorite comic book character of all time is Batgirl, specifically Barbara Gordon. Not that Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain aren't great. They're just not. They've never resonated with me. Yeah. And what I love about Batgirl is she says like, okay, Batman, you can do that, but I also have these skills and I can do this too. And this is what matters to me. You're not the only one that can go around in a cape and save Gotham. Like, I can do it too. And there's been a shift now, but primarily the entertainment industry and especially voiceover, it was a boys' game for so long. And not to say that there's not some incredible men in it, there truly are, but for so long it was just men's voices that you were hearing. Predominantly in the sports industries and traditionally manly things, it's a man narrating it. But now it's starting to become a woman's game. And I thought, I've very much been the type of like, who says that's just for boys? I got made fun of when I was little because I loved Star Wars. And I was told by other girls like, that's for boys. It's like, no. But the upside is I always got to be Princess Leia when we'd play on the playground because I was the only girl.
Who wouldn't want to be Princess Leia?
That's what I'm saying. I've always wanted to be Princess Leia.
Still do.
Yeah, same. I want to make out with Harrison Ford. God, living my dream.
My God. Yeah, we were just talking about Mike. Even now in his old age, he can get it. Sorry.
Even now, 80-something. No, 100%. I'm right there with you. When his commercial came on the Super Bowl, I was with people.
We were talking about it.
And I said, everybody shut up.
Yeah,
my man is on TV.
That's so oh my gosh, that's exactly when I was having this conversation with my mom and my sister-in-law Jessica. We were like, oh, look at him, and we were checking him out, and we had this whole spill about how he's still hot. Yeah,
he can still get it. Harrison Ford, call me after your shingles stuff clears up. Call me. But it felt like the brand made sense because I've always been very much about like superheroes are nobody without somebody to save, right? If there's no conflict, it's not about them, but it's about what they do and how they can help. And it just made sense to me. And I'm like, why is nobody else, why is this is mine. This is my brand. This is who I am. And it's like, what do people associate with you? Geeky shit. Sorry, stuff.
No, you can cuss on the podcast. Oh. You're good.
Oh, God. Amazing.
We cuss.
Geeky stuff and superheroes. And it's like, why can't that be me? Why not? And it also, this character and this brand also gives me, this is where I get a little emotional, gives me something to aspire to be, even on my lowest points when I'm like, maybe I'm not good enough to do this. I'm like, well, my brand says that I am, so I better start acting like it.
Yeah.
So it came from that, and it's kind of an homage to my dad who raised me on these characters. And he was so cool in that sense of like, I had an X-Men poster on my wall when I was little, and it was like X-Men from the 80s. So like Storm had a mohawk and was like, looked like the Billy Idol outfit, and then Rogue had a mullet. So it was very 80s. Not my girl's best look, but it was a look nonetheless. And my dad was like, who's this character and who's this character? And the way he explained it was like, yeah, this is Storm, and she's very powerful, and she's very beautiful, but she's very strong, and she's just as good as the boys, if not better. And Rogue is really great because she doesn't take sass from anybody. And, she's really strong too. So it was never like, the boy characters are better. Like none of this incel stuff that's nonsense. My dad would not have stood for any of that stuff. Like, he's very much like, no, these girls are strong, and they're probably better than the guys, if we're being honest. So it was very much like, yeah, girl power, strong female characters. Like, yeah, Princess Leia, she went in and saved them. Like, was very, very progressive and forward thinking in that, and never objectified any of them. He wasn't like, ooh, Princess Leia is so hot. Like, never objectified her. It was like, yeah, she's pretty, but she's also smart. She's also strong. And she's also like, she's kicking butt and she's telling them what to do. So a lot of those lessons really stuck with me. So it's kind of the long story short, but I like to help, and I like to provide a solution and be valuable to a client even when I am not the direct solution. Like if they want a voice that's not mine, that I can't do, if they're like, Bonnie, can you be a 35-year-old male? Like, no, I can do a boy voice up till he's about 12. And then that's really hard for me to do, but I'll connect you to somebody who can do it. Yeah. So I just like to help and to save the day.
No, that's really cool how you said, connecting people, because again, I mean, that's how you ended up on my podcast, right? We got connected through other people, and there's so many people that are in it just for themselves. And yeah, if there's something you can't do, why not? If you have a buddy or you have a friend or you have a colleague that, hey, this is something that they can do, I'm going to put you guys in contact with each other. And that just, to me, that just brings us right back to the horror community. I love it. I have so much fun. When I first started this podcast, it was like me bugging, and not in a bad way. I've loved all of my guests. Me bugging like friends and family, like, come on my podcast. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm finally at that point where like I'm getting a little community. I have listeners that are like, hey, I like what you do, I'm going to come on. And I have listeners reaching out and saying, hey, how about this for a topic? And it's really cool. And I love that when you go to conventions and you go to events, I mean, I'd say like, I mean, I don't have a way to actually, do the numbers, but I mean, I would argue like 95% of the people are super cool. That 5%, I mean, you can't get rid of like usually 10 or 5% of the people. There's just going to be jerks. But like most of the people that you bump into each other, sometimes you're sweaty, sometimes it's cosplayers that are wearing all their gear, but everybody's always super cool. And like you said, we're all nerds in different ways. I mean, even within the genre, right? You have people that only like slashers, or people that only like classics, or only like this. And I love it all. I mean, I eat all that shit up. I like pretty much a bit of it all. I mean, I am a slasher. Probably slashers are probably my favorite because that's what I was first exposed to based on my age. But I think that's what's so great about the community. And that's why I thought it'd be so fun to have you on.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I see, too, that you do go to a lot of conventions. Do you have any fun stories or experiences from any of the conventions that you've been to?
So many. I've This was, oh my God, I was just telling somebody about this like 10 years ago. I went to a Comic-Con and I dressed up as Gwen Stacy. There were so many Deadpools running around. Gwen Stacy, you're going to die. And I'm like, okay, it was funny the first time, Wade. Okay. Like, I'm just like, keep me away from the Deadpool cosplayers.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, just, I have so many. I've been to different Comic-Cons all over. I've been to the different horror conventions. There's just so, like, which one do we want to talk about first?
Yeah, okay. Tell me about a really big one, and then tell me about if you've been to like a really small one, maybe that people don't know about. Because like everybody knows the big one, like at least in our area, right? Everybody knows Midsummer, Monsterpalooza. Like you could share one from any of those, and then if you have any like smaller events or something, because I really think that's cool to expose people to, so not everybody can just like hop a plane to go to SoCal. We're very lucky we can attend some of these bigger ones.
Yeah, 100%. There's some really cool experiences. I went to this like a really small Comic-Con years ago. My God, it was like 10 years ago, maybe more. I was a cosplay judge for a Comic-Con, and I was this is when I did not have a wig for this. My hair was that short, but I was Velma from Scooby-Doo.
Oh, wow.
And I had short brown hair. I know. I've had every hair color that black, brown, red, and blonde.
I mean, that makes it easier to cosplay, right? Yeah.
100%. I have a no wig policy now because it's just too hot.
Yeah.
It's too hot. I sweat too much, although I will make an exception for some characters. But generally, I try not to dress up if I have to, like, do a wig. I'm just going to skip that character. But, so that was a really fun one. I went to...
Where was that one at?
That was out here in LA.
Okay.
It was at like a gym somewhere. It was
nice.
It was through people that I met. It was like a random thing that through people that I met at a comic book shop, and they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So that was fun.
Yeah.
I think it was in Burbank or Sherman Oaks. I know those are two drastically different sides of LA, but it was one of those. But there was a really cool one that I went to. A smaller one. I went to a Buffy convention.
Yeah, I know you're a big Buffy fan.
I am. It is my favorite show ever. You want to talk about strong female characters? That was one that I used to watch with my dad too.
Yeah.
And he thought it was so cool. I went to one last summer, and I entered to win a tour of Buffy's house in Torrance, where they filmed like the exteriors and they used the backyard and they filmed part of the inside. And I went with a friend of mine who I met through people in the geek community, and Buffy also happens to be one of her favorite things. And I was already like planning on going to this convention. This was like June of last year. So I was like, yeah, I'm already going to go. You know what? I'll enter the raffle sweepstakes to tour her house. Why not? And then I got the email that was like, oh yeah, your number was picked and we're only limiting this to very few people. You get to like take a walking tour of filming locations and the final stop is going to be at her house. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I won, and my friend also won. So we got to do that together. And then I met a new friend who is one of the scare actors at Midsummer Queen Mary's Dark Harbor.
Oh, Queen Mary, okay.
So I met this other friend who goes to like a bunch of filming locations. I believe his Instagram handle is TikTok is at Set Stalkers. I believe that's it. I'm not on TikTok as much, but he does great work. But yeah, we got to tour Buffy's house, and that started with going to a Buffy convention, and we got to go check out filming locations, and I met some people from the show, and it was really cool. And one of the characters or cast members from the show, she was on a couple episodes in season 4, remembered me from a very long time ago because I kept running into her.
Oh my gosh.
11 years ago. I kept running into her. I met her at a play, and then she came to my work and remembered me. And then when I met her at the convention, she remembered me. She's like, oh yeah, didn't I see you at this show? And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. If you told me Buffy's college roommate who was a demon was going to remember me like 15 years ago, I would have told you that you were lying. So
wow,
that's random stuff. Yeah, you meet really cool people at the end of the, yeah, it's just, it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my favorite thing is every time I go, I like meet somebody new and we're like, oh, let's get each other, you're like total nerds, like let's get each other social media. Um, and again, it's just really cool to see like what other people are doing in the genre. But yeah, I never win anything cool like that. That's so cool, especially since you're a hardcore Buffy fan. I know to bring up a little sad point, so I know we're recording this right after the passing of Michelle Trachtenberg, so
yeah,
that was kind of rough to hear that. That's
so young, and so that was just so sad. And seeing the tributes from the other cast members just broke my heart. Like I knew everybody's was really sad, and I was like, oh man, when Sarah Michelle Gellar posts hers, I'm gonna be a wreck, and I was. And my sister took that really hard because her character on the show was her favorite, and the one that she identified with the most was Buffy's little sister.
Yeah.
I know, that makes me Buffy. We're surprised. We're shocked. We are shocked and surprised that that's who I relate to. But my sister took it pretty hard. And so, like, we got to kind of talk about that a little bit. And, like, it just heartbreaking. But to see, like, how much that person really did so much to bring joy to others, and how her character, even though she joined the show really late, left such a mark with people. And, yeah, it was just so sad to see that, and very shocking. But to see how much, this is why it's important to tell people that you love them and to say it while they're still around, because, we want to speak the love to people while they're still here. Because it's very easy to say all these things about somebody when they're not around anymore. It's like, make sure you tell them while they're still here too.
Yeah, you have to make a conscious effort, and to reach out to people. And it's hard, we live in a busy world, and
yeah,
I'm guilty of it. And you have to work at those, my husband's always telling me, well, you have to work at those relationships. If there's somebody that's important to you, maybe it's harder on their end, but to reciprocate in the way that you want them to, but you still keep reaching out.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
So why are you drawn to horror? Since we're getting into all this little spooky stuff, like what is it about? I love finding out like why people watch horror or read it, or what is it about it that keeps you a fan of it?
Yeah. I have anxiety, and I think real life is scarier. Real life is scarier to me. Yeah. Real life is scarier, at least like when it's, I love unapologetically, I love the Scream movies and that whole franchise.
I have an episode.
They're so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're so smart. And I think they're a good kind of gateway for people who think maybe they won't like horror because they're so well done and they're so smart. I also like horror because usually there's like a final girl. There's a girl who kicks ass in it and survives. And I love that. I love that idea. I'm just like, I'm the final girl trying to survive the horror movie known as my life. And I think that they're smart and they're fun and they're less scary to me than real life stuff. But there's some that I think are just good movies that happen to be in the horror genre. Like, I think I have my favorite horror movie of all time. And then I have, like, my other ones that I really would be in my top 10 horror movies. Like, the original Halloween is probably my second favorite horror movie of all time. I love Laurie Strode. Yeah. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, I love the new ones, too. The new trilogy, that's a hill I will die on, and I will fight anybody if they think they're not good.
Because that last one, there's a lot of debate about that last one. I thought it was good. Did not like. I loved the concept. I felt like, I think the problem was, and again, I mean, I'm not even going to, anything we talk about, people know we're spoiling. They didn't know, I think they needed to introduce that character sooner, and I think it would have just nailed it better. I didn't mind it, though. I didn't hate it. I mean, so many people hated that last one. I liked it. I thought it was a cool concept. It felt rushed. But, yeah, I mean, I'm here for it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good, a great addition to it, and maybe they can run with it at some point. I mean, it's supernatural, right? I mean, so you can do anything. And in horror, you can do anything. It's like a soap opera. Somebody can die and then they can come back the next week. You never know.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought, and people were laughing with Jamie Lee saying like it's about trauma, but like
it
actually is, because why wouldn't that? If you go from the original Halloween film to the 2018 one, yeah, anybody who went through that would 100% have trauma. And yeah, she probably would live her life like that. And like, what are the effects of something as traumatic as that at such a young age? How would that play out in somebody's life? Like, to me, it made perfect sense. Yeah. And I also, like, I loved getting to see older Laurie Strode, like, firing a gun and, like, kicking ass. I was like, oh, my God, yes. Like, I was so excited to see that. But I love the idea of a girl, again, like, this is kind of ties into my brand. Like, I love the idea of a girl being the one to save everybody. I love that that's very prevalent in horror, whereas, you know, we don't have a female James Bond yet, you know, but in horror, it's not as unusual because we have characters like that. We have great performances and great music and sound design and all of these things that make a fun experience. And like, it's fun to jump and be scared too. And I love that we have these fun icons of horror as well. Like you have Art the Clown, who is in every right our newest horror icon, who is such a terrific actor. And somebody, dear God, please make him the Joker in the next thing, because
I'm on that campaign with you. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. He needs to be, because he gets the character and he's gotten the character for so long. Like, cast him as the Joker, damn it.
I mean, you can definitely tell when I found out that he did mime work. I'm like, yeah. I mean, how does he take a character like Art? And if you're not a fan of like gore and the slash stuff, like, you can still see like this man has so much talent in his facial expressions and his movements. And I've seen some of the stuff that he's put out there where he's playing the Joker, and like I said, I'm on that campaign with him. I think it needs to happen. I think he would bring so much to that character.
100%. And he's so good. And like, you get these great performances and these great icons, and it's kind of fun to be scared.
It is.
It's fun to be scared because it's like an escape for me.
Exactly.
And it's fun. And I think if you can watch a horror movie and be confronted with fictional things that people do, it makes real life, I don't know, it's not as scary as real life. Like, real life is always scarier to me than a horror movie.
There's real boogeymen out there. There's in the real world. And I mean, and it's exactly what you said. Taking back to what you said about Laurie Strode's character with the newer Halloween movies. I mean, yeah, she was definitely traumatized, and you know, I'll be a little vulnerable. Like, I'm a military veteran. I'm a combat veteran, and besides that, I mean, just again, our world we live in. I mean, I've seen some scary stuff, and I saw some scary stuff in the military, and I think that it is very cathartic and it's slightly and therapeutic for me to watch a scary movie. And there's times where I'm like, oh, I'm shook. Like that's my number one thing I say. I'm like, oh, that movie got me shook. Like, it shook me. Like, I'm done. Like, and it's kind of good. I need that. I'm not a big fan of jump scares, and I do blame that on the military aspect. But
100%, yeah,
I'll watch them. But it's definitely a good way to like get your anxiety out, get your heart rate going a little bit. The best is actually, though, when you're in the middle of the night, I'm like going to sleep, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you kind of think about something you saw or you read, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm a little scared now. I'm beyond that point now in my life where like, oh, I got to turn the lights on, and clearly I'm not running to my mom and dad's room. I mean, I don't live with them or anything. You know, when I was a little girl, that's what I did. But it's funny because even as a kid, I would be so scared of movies, and I blame it on my brothers because we had one TV for the three of us to watch. And so being the youngest and being the only girl was like, well, most of the time I had to fight with them like to get my turn to watch TV. So sometimes they'd make me watch stuff that I was so scared of. Yet there I was like the next day, like, oh, are we going to watch another one of those, whatever that movie we were watching? Because it scared me, but it was kind of cool. So I didn't know like how much it was going to, you know, something that I enjoy, and then now in my adulthood to help me deal with things. And I hear that from a lot of people that they use it to deal with their anxiety. I mean, when you're talking, if people aren't watching the YouTube video of this, but they're listening, when you were like, oh, I have anxiety, I have this, I was like pointing at myself on screen. I'm like, I get it, girl. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. The ones that really, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say that it's such a, and people don't believe me. I get so many people that are like, oh, you like that scary stuff? That horror stuff? I don't like none of that. And I've never found a person where I can't convince them that they're a fan of something in the horror genre, because it is so broad, whether it's a horror comedy, whether it's more science fiction, whether it's more of a thriller. It's like, you don't realize this is technically horror. It's probably the broadest genre. I would argue. I could come up. I could probably write an academic paper on it, but I don't want to. My brain's too fried to do all that now. I don't want to do anything school related. But you could. I mean, I'm sure somebody out there's done a thesis and gotten their PhD on something related to it. So. I mean, it's broader than what people think. People think, thinking back to an interview I did with actress Sadie Katz, she was talking about, it's just, people think it's just boobs and killing. I'm like, well, yeah, that's part of it, but that's not the only thing. There's so many other aspects involved in it that,
100%.
I think there's something for everybody. That somebody who argues that they don't like scary movies or they don't like the horror genre, I'm like, I'll find something. I just talked to him, and it's never failed me. Within 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, yeah, you'll like this. And then they're like, oh, I've seen that. And I'm like, did you like it? And they're like, yeah. And I'm all, told you like some scary movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Think of it like horror. You also get the good for her movies. You get like good for her, like Florence Pugh. Great performance in Midsummer.
Mm-hmm.
Terrific performance from an actor's standpoint. Like that movie, like there are moments from that I'm like, ugh, like I still think about them because it stays with you, because it's not just, people are dying, but it's what is this movie trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think of like a newer movie, thinking of The Substance, right? I mean, look at it. It got nominated. I mean, we didn't get the big wins for acting and movie, but I mean, damn, you can appreciate, even if you're not a fan of the genre. I mean, what Demi Moore did with that? Whoa. That was amazing. She put herself out there.
I mean, literally. Nominated.
Yeah. And she put herself out there, literally. I mean, she was nude through most of it. She's this beautiful woman where they made her look horrible, yet she was acting the hell out of it. It was amazing.
Yeah, she's so underrated, and I'm glad that she's finally getting recognition for being such a terrific actress, truly and honestly. And the fact that she's like, I've been doing this for so long, like this is wild, and I think she's starting to believe it, maybe, and that's very interesting. But like, you have. And people think they may not like it, but it's like, okay, show them a Vincent Price movie. Tell me that how can somebody not love Vincent Price? I love Vincent Price. I have a Vincent Price candle. It's like a bust of him that I got from a server at a diner in North Hollywood. And it's like one of my favorite things. It's like a purple Vincent Price candle. And it makes me so happy. And I have it like with my stuff. And Vincent Price is in my favorite horror movie ever that people don't talk about, but it was the first film adaptation of I Am Legend.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one.
It's called The Last Man on Earth. It was the first adaptation of it before the Omega Man, before I Am Legend. It was like the first adaptation of it on film. And Vincent Price carries that movie. And it's on YouTube. Don't watch it in color though. It is on YouTube in black and white, the way God intended.
Yeah, they did like a recolorized version and it didn't look very good, I'm sure. Yeah.
It is meant to be watched in black and white with all the lights off in your house, and it's the same premise. And that movie never spooked me. It always reminded me of watching it on Halloween with my dad. It never actually scared me until October of 2020 when I watched it for Halloween, and it was during COVID. And I went, oh, that's when it genuinely spooked me.
Yeah, and movies will do that to you, right? There'll be some sort of hidden message, and horror's really good at doing that, at hiding things that they don't put it right at the forefront. You got to kind of read between the lines to catch these different tropes and these different things that they're trying to sell to you. I mean, Stephen King is really known for doing that in his writing. I know he catches a lot of hate for it, but whatever. I'm a fan. I like his message. I like what he's putting out there.
100%, yeah. And this is, if you want to watch a great performance, and if people say Vincent Price isn't a good actor, A, I punch them in the face, and B, I tell them to watch this movie because he carries it 100%. He has his dialogues and his monologues. It's part of it, just like you're hearing his internal monologue and you're hearing his voiceover while he's doing something. And he's so good. And they filmed it. It was supposed to be, I think, in New York, and they filmed it in Italy. So it's like, that's not quite, but okay. But like, you feel his loneliness and his desperation to survive, and you feel that with him. And he is so good at just being an actor, let alone in a horror movie. He's so good at just being an actor where you feel the pain and everything he's going through, and his want to survive and his frustration. And the things he went through to get to that point, and it's so good. I just tell everybody to watch it. I'm like, please just do me a favor and watch this movie. Just
and especially
watch
if you
it
catch it for free on YouTube. There's no reason not to. Okay, so I will add that 100%. On my list. But yeah, and I will keep in mind like of the time frame when you watched it, why it could add to why it resonated with you so much. Everything that was going on in the world at that time.
Yeah, when you watch it, you're gonna go, oh, that makes sense.
Yep. I'll definitely let you know what I think of it after.
Yes, please do. It's my favorite. I watch it once a year. Yeah. I just watch it during Halloween once a year. And then I'm like, okay, yeah.
So a few more things before we close all this up. So I got a little question that I'm going to hit you with, okay?
Great. So love it. Let's go.
What's a scene that's from a non-horror movie that has stayed with you? Okay? It stayed with you long after you watched it, and even if it wasn't meant to be scary. And if you need an example, I can give you my number one example.
That's not supposed to be scary?
It's not supposed to be scary, but it scared you. Like maybe it wasn't an actual scary movie.
Ooh, okay. But
you're like, damn, that like how I said, that shook me, or that kind of freaked me out. And again, not necessarily like, ooh, I'm shaking scared, but like it messed with your head a little, or maybe that night you thought about it, or you're like, maybe I'll never watch this movie again, or I might fast forward through this scene. You have anything like that?
Ooh, I'm trying to think. Now I'm like blanking on every movie I've ever watched.
I can share with you some of the ideas, some of the ones that other people have told me when I've posed this question to them.
Okay, yeah. I would like to hear some, because I'm blanking.
Somebody told me The Revenant, when the bear attacks Leonardo DiCaprio's character.
Yeah.
Somebody told me Pulp Fiction, the scene with the gimp.
Oh, yeah.
The scene in Pulp Fiction that got me was when the girl gets stabbed with the, I was young and watching in the movie theater, and she gets stabbed with the adrenaline shot. For me, though, Dead Presidents. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
No, but I remember the movie poster, weirdly enough.
Which has nothing to do with the movie. I'm not gonna go into much detail since you haven't seen the movie, because I plan on doing a whole episode about it. But
okay.
Yeah, there's a scene. It's pretty graphic. Where I'll give a little bit. This guy's carrying around, like, it's during the Vietnam War, and he decapitates somebody, and he's like carrying around this man's head as a trophy. And I'm like, what the heck? This is supposed to be a crime drama. Like, why am I seeing this horror? And granted, I was already watching scary movies at the time, but it was super graphic. So anyway, I thought maybe you might have something in your head where you're like, man, I just remember watching that and it got me.
I'm sure there's something and I'm blanking on it, but there are certain things that are really hard. I think I'll go with like when something comes up. Oh, yeah, okay. No, I can think of it because I thought about like this specifically the area of what I'm thinking of, and it reminded me of a specific scene. I think if I was trying to think of like what's a scene, but I thought what bothers me in movies that sticks with me, and then I remembered it. So I think the movie was called Straw Dogs. It was a remake. I saw it at the movie theater with an ex-boyfriend and a couple of his friends, and it was, I don't remember who was in it. I blocked a lot of it out. I don't even know why we saw it, but there's a scene with a essay in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff, I remembered. They didn't show it, but they played the audio from it. Like they didn't show it happening, but you could hear it.
Ooh,
and I wanted
rough.
to leave.
I wouldn't be able,
I have a hard time with stuff like that. Like
Absolutely.
I feel like most of the time that is gratuitous in a film, and maybe that's me being an I don't know if we can say it. That's why if it's going on YouTube.
Yeah, you're good with essay. You're fine. You're fine with the acronym.
Yeah, I'm an essay survivor.
You can Google that shit, guys, if you want to know what she's saying by the letters essay.
I don't like, or seeing it in something, I really have to like or seeing it in something, I really have to like, was this necessary for the point for that movie? I understand why they did it, but like, I just remembered thinking about that, and like I have to like, especially if I'm like involved in that scene almost quit and tried to quit and said, I'm not doing this. And they said, sorry, it's in your contract. And it was part of a storyline. But nevertheless, like, that's whenever I do my rewatches and that scene comes up, I'm like, okay. And thankfully it doesn't happen, but it's the beginning of that happening and it stops. But it's still, you can tell it was difficult for them to do that. And they have the actors like talk about that. But yeah, wow. That I think would be because that's real life scary stuff.
Yeah, it is. You know? And that's what I have noticed, that most of the time when people answer this question for me, it ends up being, you're like, wait, this could actually really happen. This isn't Freddy Krueger. Yep. This isn't, we were talking about Michael Myers. I mean, this isn't a supernatural character. This isn't somebody with claws on his head. I mean, this is legit. So
yeah,
it's amazing. I'm always, and thank you for sharing that. I know that was something very personal and letting me into your world and the listeners into your world by sharing.
Yeah. And if maybe
I didn't mean for it to get so serious.
No, I didn't either. But I try to be open about this sort of thing because, again, one of my heroes is Carrie Fisher, who was so open talking about her mental health.
Yeah.
And was able to find a way to make it humorous. And she's like, they're so good. And her stand-up special, my God.
Yeah.
She says, if my life wasn't funny, it would just be true. And that's simply unacceptable. And I love that quote from her. And she's like, yeah, like I make jokes about this because it doesn't just make it sad. I can find the humor in these situations and not to find the humor in what I was just talking about. But there's something powerful about being open and talking about that sort of thing, because you never know who out there is listening who might feel like they are so alone right now. And then they hear somebody else talk about it and they go, oh, it's not just me.
Yeah.
And it makes us all a little bit more relatable to each other. So, I don't think I've ever talked about that in a podcast before, but, maybe there's a first time for everything. And since we're talking about scary stuff, yeah, like maybe this is the time to share it. And maybe somebody else out there listening won't feel as alone. Or maybe now I've just healed another part of myself by sharing it publicly. I don't know. But that's why, like you said, talking about my stuff on social media, I always try to be not perfect and not have a curated thing that's just perfection, because we get enough of that. Like, I just want to be real to people. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we get on out of here, I want to, hold on. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about this. I need you to share this mainly for selfish reasons because of where I'm from. And I know I have a lot of family and friends that are going to know when you say this. What was the first voiceover work that you did? I think it was a commercial, right?
It was a commercial for Rosa Maria's, I believe.
Yeah, I think I heard that in your interview. So shout out to San Bernardino peeps.
Yep, it was a radio commercial when I was in college at Cal State San Bernardino, and it was for, I believe, Rosa Maria's Mexican restaurant, because I remember my friend was like, hey, do you want to do a radio commercial? And I said, okay, what do I have to do? And she's like, oh, you're just going to do like voice acting. And I went, okay, well, what do I need to do? She's like, oh, you're just going to pretend you like Mexican food. And I'm like, that's not even pretending, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
then I actually was able to contact the radio station, and they had a copy of it, and they sent it to me. I was able to listen to it, and I went, for first time, that's not bad. And then I found later, they sent me an email, and they said, are you open to recording something else? Like, we have a client, we think you'd be really good for it. And I never saw the dang email, because I think it was after I graduated. I'm so mad. I could have started getting paid for this earlier.
Right? Oh, man. And shout out to Cal State San Bernardino. I love that. Mm-hmm. Again, that was another connection. I was like, oh, that's where I went to school, and that's where Big Sexy went. So that's how we all.
Yep, that's how we met in the theater
We all
department.
ran in circles together. I was over in the anthropology area, but still, it's I loved that school.
Me too.
Yeah. So tell people about your horror podcast. I know you were mentioning it earlier. Tell us the name of your horror podcast, and also share with us like your social media if people want to follow you, and so we can see all the different projects and things that you have going on.
Yeah, so our horror podcast is the Horror Nerds Comedy Podcast. It is me, my friend Samantha Hale, who is a stand-up comedian here in LA, who runs a once-a-month horror show at the Hollywood Improv, which is called Horror Nerds. So we have this horror podcast that's kind of an extension of that brand. And then it's our friend Anthony Landry, who is a terrific human, who's like a spooky world archivist and historian. And that's where we met, was on the set of that. But the three of us come together and we talk about horror movies, and it's like stand-up horror nerding out, and we have like comedy sketches and commercials in it. So it's like a horror SNL baby kind of a thing. And it's really, really fun. And like we have voice actors on it. I do some stuff for it. I do a lot of the post-production stuff, so a lot of the casting and directing, and sometimes the VO for it. But it's really fun. It's really creative. And we just had, as of recording this, last week, Christopher Young, who is the composer for the Hellraiser movies, joined us for a very, very long interview. And we have the parts of that. So part 1 just came out with him. And he's so lovely and so kind and so gracious and just so ridiculously talented. So we have a commercial in that interview for getting your own Cenobite.
That's great.
And it's fun. So you can check that out if you go to horrornerdspodcast.com, I believe. It will take you to our Zencast page where the site and all of our stuff. But if you Google Horror Nerds Comedy Podcast, you'll find us. But I think horrornerdspodcast.com, and that'll take you to our main listening pages. But we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon as of right now. And we have all of our socials linked there. And then my socials are all linked on my website. It's just easiest to find it. But if you Google Voiceover Superhero, you'll find me because I've spent years building this brand. But if you go to vosuperhero.com, all of my socials are linked on my website. And that's VO as in voiceover, not BO as in body odor.
Yeah, I love that you're like, let me emphasize that, because the B's and the D's and the V's, they all sound the same.
Exactly. So that's why I tell people if I don't have a business card, I'm like, just look up Voiceover Superhero. You'll find me. Like, it's just, I've spent time building that brand, damn it.
Yeah. No, I really do love on your podcast. Those commercials they're really catchy. It's not your typical, it's nothing like my podcast, guys. It's a totally different format. But it's really fun. And I think you nailed it. I hadn't even thought about that. It's kind of like a little baby Saturday Night Live. And
with horror, and we have a 5-minute stand-up bit from a different horror nerd comedian every week on the show. So, it's a fun way to laugh, and they're like 30 minutes long. So
yeah,
it's a fun way to just laugh and have a good time and listen to people being nerds. And I always make really dirty jokes on there, apparently. So, it's fun.
That's great. All right. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us and just, talking about different things in the spooky life, telling us about what you do for a living and things that you're doing for fun, and talking about your podcast. It was really great having you. So
thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we did this.
Yeah, it was in the making for a while, but it's all worth
the
out.
wait.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
Yeah. So thank you everybody that was listening today. If you want to find me, I am on social media as well at Dreadful Dialogue Podcast. I have a website, dreadfuldialogue.com. I have some blogs and different things on there that you won't find on the pod, and some of the things that you won't necessarily see on my social media. So check that out as well. And again, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys check out some of Bonnie's work. And with that, have a good one.